construction sites operate on tight schedules and tighter budgets. Everyone knows this. On this particular project, the deadline had been moved up by 3 weeks. The pressure rippled through every level of the operation. Miguel noticed it first during the Monday safety briefing. The scaffolding on the building's east side had been assembled quickly, perhaps too quickly. He walked past it that afternoon, observing how some of the diagonal braces seemed loose. The platform boards, which should have been secured with proper clips, were simply resting in place. "I should report this," he thought, pausing for a moment. But then he remembered the project manager's words. "From last week, we need to move faster, stop finding problems, and start finding solutions." Miguel wasn't alone in his observations. Teresa, an experienced welder, mentioned the scaffolding to her colleague during lunch. "Those connections don't look right," she said, pointing toward the structure. Her colleague nodded, but continued eating. "Someone else will handle it. That's not our department." By Tuesday morning, at least 6 workers had noticed various concerning details about that scaffolding. Each one assumed someone else would take action. Each one believed it wasn't quite their responsibility. Each one thought, surely someone in charge already knows. This phenomenon has a name: the bystander effect. When everyone sees a problem, paradoxically, no one acts because each person believes someone else will. The culture of silence. Understanding why people stay silent requires examining the invisible pressures that exist in many workplaces, particularly in construction, where time equals money and speaking up can feel like stopping progress. There's the fear of being labeled a complainer. Construction has long valued toughness and resilience, admirable qualities that can sometimes morph into a reluctance to voice concerns. Workers worry about being seen as weak or overly cautious. There's also the hierarchy issue. Junior workers often believe that raising safety concerns isn't their place. The supervisors went to school for these. They reason they know better than I do. This deference to authority, while respectful in intention, can create dangerous blind spots. Economic pressure plays a role too. When projects run behind schedule, workers know that delays can mean fewer hours or lost bonuses. Some fear that identifying problems might reflect poorly on their team or jeopardize future employment. In an industry where job security can be uncertain, speaking up feels risky. Then there's simple human psychology: normalization of deviance. When small safety shortcuts become routine without immediate consequences, people's sense of risk gradually recalibrates. "We did it this way yesterday and nothing happened" becomes justification for continuing unsafe practices. The turning point: by mid-morning Tuesday, the scaffolding situation reached a critical point. A delivery of materials needed to be staged on the platform. The weight would be substantial: several pallets of tiles, each weighing hundreds of pounds. Carlos, the crane operator, surveyed the situation from his cab. Something didn't feel right. The scaffolding seemed to shift slightly, even in the light breeze. He radioed the ground crew. "Are we sure that platform can handle this load?" The response came back quickly: "It's rated for it. We're behind schedule. Let's keep moving." Carlos hesitated. He had 22 years of experience operating heavy machinery. His instincts were telling him to stop, but he also knew the project was under pressure. He also knew that questioning every decision would slow everything down. He also knew that engineers had designed this scaffolding system and supervisors had approved its installation. Surely they knew what they were doing. Surely his concerns were just overcautious thinking. He began the lift. The intervention, what happened next, provides the crucial lesson of this story. As the pallet swung slowly toward the platform, a young apprentice named Joe, just 3 months into his construction, careered something unexpected. "Wait. Stop." The site fell silent. Carlos halted the crane. Heads turned. Joe's voice was shaking but determined. "I don't think we should load that platform. I've been watching it, and the connections don't look secure. I know I'm new, but something feels wrong." The project manager walked over, clearly irritated by the delay. But Miguel, the foreman, stepped forward first. In that moment, he made a choice that would define his career and possibly save lives. "Let's check it out," Miguel said. "Joe's right to speak up. Let's take 5 minutes." The discovery, upon closer inspection by the structural engineer who was called to the site, the team discovered that the scaffolding had been improperly assembled. Several critical bolts were missing. The diagonal bracing was inadequate for the intended load. The platform boards weren't properly secured. Had the weight been placed as planned, the structure would likely have failed. The project manager's face went pale as the engineer explained what might have happened. A collapse could have resulted in injuries, equipment damage, and months of delays, not to mention the devastating human cost that no schedule or budget could justify. Joe, the newest and least experienced person on site, had prevented a disaster simply by speaking up when everyone else had remained silent. The lessons learned this incident became a turning point for the entire company. Management implemented immediate changes. New reporting systems, anonymous safety reporting channels were established, allowing workers to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. Cultural shifts. Leadership began celebrating workers who identified problems, reframing safety concerns as valuable contributions rather than obstacles. Stop work authority. Every worker, regardless of position, received explicit authority to halt operations if they observed unsafe conditions. Regular safety audits. Independent inspections became mandatory, removing the pressure from internal teams to overlook problems. Training programs. Workers received education about cognitive biases like the bystander effect and normalization of deviance. Most importantly, the company leadership acknowledged their role in creating an environment where people felt unable to speak up. They recognized that rushing schedules and dismissing concerns had contributed to the dangerous situation. The broader message: this story extends far beyond a single construction site. Similar dynamics occur in hospitals, factories, offices, and homes. Danger often hides in plain sight, visible to many but addressed by none. Prevention requires 3 elements. Awareness. Recognizing that if you see something concerning, others probably do too but may not act. Courage. Understanding that speaking up, even when uncomfortable, is an act of care for yourself and others. Culture. Creating environments where raising concerns is welcomed, expected, and valued. Every person in this story who noticed the danger and said nothing had understandable reasons. None intended harm, yet their collective silence nearly led to disaster. The real hero wasn't the most experienced worker or the highest-ranking supervisor. It was someone willing to risk embarrassment, pushback, or dismissal to say, "This isn't right." Today, that construction site displays a plaque in the break room. The shopping complex was completed successfully, 3 weeks behind the original accelerated schedule, but with 0 serious incidents. Joe continued his apprenticeship and eventually became a safety supervisor, dedicating his career to ensuring others feel empowered to speak up. The question this story poses isn't whether we'll encounter danger or we will. The question is whether we'll find the courage to act when everyone is watching, but no one is moving. Because sometimes the person best positioned to stop a disaster isn't the expert with decades of experience. It's simply the person willing to break the silence. Your voice matters. Your observations count. And the temporary discomfort of speaking up is infinitely preferable to the permanent consequences of staying silent. What will you do the next time you see danger that everyone notices but no one stops?